Hello guys, so this is going to be a draw with me video. It's something to put on in the background and you can actually watch or draw along with me if you like. So the original amount of time for this sketchbook page was about 5 hours and I did actually live stream it on my channel. This was actually the first official page or double page spread of this new sketchbook. I did want this video to come out sooner, but a few things came up in my personal life that had to be dealt with first. And also, I was struggling of how I wanted to present this video, whether I wanted it to be a condensed video or whether I wanted it to be more like this format, a draw with me. I think in the end, I kind of settled halfway, so it's a condensed version of the live stream, but it's still long enough to be a draw with me session. It also won't take my computer forever to render this video either. If you're watching or drawing along, you can probably tell that I was having a very hard time deciding exactly what I wanted to do to start off this sketchbook, because it's a brand new sketchbook. It was the first official page or double page spread of this sketchbook that wasn't the swatches. What am I gonna do? And live streaming it at the same time, I just kept rubbing out the picture again and again and again. Technically, the character on the side is supposed to be my character Bethany, but it didn't look like Bethany. No matter how many times I redrew the character, it just did not look like Bethany, or at least what I imagined Bethany to look like in a witch's hat. It wasn't working. So whether I class this character as Bethany anymore, I don't know. Could be just a random witch girl, who knows. I was also really struggling with the pose and the anatomy and just everything. Just everything was not going the way I wanted it to. It's like when you start either a new notebook or a new sketchbook and you want it to look the prettiest it's ever been. But a few pages later, it looks like a complete mess. Also, this is my first sketchbook where it's actually like a really, really nice sketchbook. Yes, I have a moleskin sketchbook, but this one is like a proper, embroidered, beautifully presented sketchbook. I want to do it justice, you know? During this point in the process, I was doing a lot of erasing. So erasing, redrawing it, erasing, redrawing it. It was driving me a bit insane. Perspective and proportions, getting them right is really difficult. This is something that I've struggled with, especially when drawing with the canvas, the paper, the sketchbook, whichever, straight on. It's this thing called art lean, where your drawing leans off and only looks good at a certain angle, but you want it to look good in all angles, you know? So I am trying to get around this, and that's why you can see me lifting up the sketchbook and constantly testing whether the art lean is there or not. If it isn't, it's a good thing. Because art lean was becoming such an issue, yes, I was propping it up with my pencil case, but that wasn't quite enough, so I was using my drawing board to just help lift it up a bit. It also helps a little bit with the glare as well. I'd say the only issue with the drawing board is that it keeps slipping back on my desk as I'm drawing, so I definitely need to find something to fix that. The position of the arm was actually a pretty difficult one to figure out. I didn't know whether I wanted her waving her wand, or I wanted the wand down by the side, or I was going to do like another study of the wand. At this point, I was just going with the flow and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I obviously knew that I wanted to draw a witchy girl, and that was pretty much about it. You can see me redraw the hand several times. Yeah, that's a common occurrence, to be fair. Hands constantly looking wonky? Of course, yes, it's me. They always look wonky. To be fair, I pretty much always mess up proportions in some kind of way throughout the drawing process, whether it's the hands too small or too big, or the head's too small or too big, or I can't fit the composition I want on one page. That's annoying. The amount of times that's happened to me in the past. Oh, the frustration is building. I've been doing a lot more digital work than I have traditional recently, or at least in this last half a year at the very least, And it's so hard transitioning. It's kind of like using a regular drawing tablet when you've gotten used to using a screen tablet. Going back to basics can be a bit daunting. And no undo key or Control Z, none of that. Digital artists are spoilt with undo buttons. I will say, I had a lot of fun drawing the witch's hat, just an oversized witch's hat. It made the character look really, really cute. So with this sketch, I was kind of going for a very witchy vibe. Now, usually when I draw my character Bethany, I emphasize her genie side because that's the sort of thing that comes across with her character design very prominently. But the one thing that doesn't come across is her witchy, wizardy sort of side. So I thought in this sketchbook would be a perfect opportunity to actually figure that out. I think with this sketch, I definitely went for a very plant witch sort of theme. And you'll definitely see the plant theme come into effect as we go through the sketchbook page. When I say Bethany is a genie, I mean it in the way that she had more of a genie aesthetic that was kind of based on Bratz Genie Magic, because around the time that she was created in 2010, she's one of my oldest characters. I was in love with the Bratz Genie Magic aesthetic. It was incredible. It was immaculate. I loved it. So then I did some flowers. Now I'm pretty sure that these are hyacinths. To be fair, when I was drawing them, I was just going off my imagination. I wasn't really going for a particular real flower, but comparing them to real life, probably the closest to what I was thinking of was hyacinths. Then I just did a stem with some leaves. Why not? I will say, coming up on this part of the video, I actually forgot to press record on me sketching a lantern, like a very foresty, like fairy aesthetic lantern. Very fairy core, I know. But there is this custom content in The Sims 4 that I have, and it's of this lantern, and I was like, oh my god, I want to draw it. It's so gorgeous. And I did, but I also busted out my gouache as well. Since this is the first spread in my sketchbook, I just really wanted pops of colour, and I also wanted a variety of different styles. So you have like this really sketchy, messy sort of style, along with a few spotlight colours, maybe a little bit of gel pen accents, as well as the gouache painting, just all these different mixes of art styles just all together. You also have the bleed from the rainbow swatch that I did in my markers. I didn't really incorporate that, but I just thought it was a cool little thing on the page with the plant witch. Then I did some willow vines just going down. I haven't actually started any of the painting yet. I just decided to get all the pencil out the way with, or at least most of the pencil stuff out of the way with before I busted out the gouache. But I think on the page where I did the lantern, I didn't really know what else I wanted to do. And then the idea of my digital painting that I did of Brandon popped into my mind. Now, the reason why that's important is because in the background, I actually used like this vine brush that's just so gorgeous. So I was like, hey, why don't I do like these beautiful willow vines? And they're really, really simple to do. They're literally just like teardrops at an angle along a line. So it's perfectly simple and it looks really, really effective once it's fully done. Willow trees also just remind me of my grandparents, because in my grandparents' back garden there is this huge willow tree, and I always used to remember just hiding amongst the willow, as well as looking at all of the crispy vines just all over the grass in autumn. Oh, it just makes me so happy. Looking back at this sketchbook spread, it just brings me so much joy. Just the variety of different styles and the splashes of colour here, there and everywhere. It's just, it's me in a nutshell, as well as the cottage core, fairy core, whatever kind of core you want to call it, aesthetic. I don't know if it's just me, but this sketchbook spread actually reminds me of something I would have done in university with just the amount and the variety that's here. It reminds me of my Ideas Generation sketchbook that I did in between my second and third years in preparation for my big final project in my third year. Makes me think I need to look at those sketchbooks again. Maybe looking back through my university sketchbooks just as a whole, see if there's any ideas that just went underutilized or just didn't really get done the way I wanted them to. I also just have an old pile of random sketchbooks that just have a lot of miscellaneous stuff in them, and I know that there is a college sketchbook in particular where I did this whole thing about a crystal kingdom. Now that was a precursor to my Kingdom of Verona that I have in my character universe now. So going back to that sketchbook and looking at what I have in correlation to what I have now would actually be a really interesting thing to just reminisce on. Also the fact that I used to only have 7 main characters on the channel. Yeah, that's not a thing anymore because I have so many more characters that are a part of this big character universe. What can I say? I fell into the trap of having characters and telling their stories constantly. I have brought up the idea of doing a Meet the OCs 2.0, which would mean that I would shuffle around which characters actually get spotlighted, because some of the characters that I previously spotlighted aren't really as important nowadays as they used to be. I definitely think Loki, Bethany and Jalal would still be in the series, but as for other characters, I'm not so sure. So what have I done in the meantime between the last video and this video? Well, there have been multiple things. Obviously, I do run my Sims account, so I do story posts and I also do Sims episodes as well. But then there's also my personal life as well. So mid-August, I went on holiday to Burnham-on-Sea. I did a couple of pages while I was on holiday for those 4 days. And fun fact, it was the only time we could actually go on holiday because the rest of August was pretty much all appointments. We went on holiday for those 4 days. And the rest of August, I had to do jury service, which is completely mind-boggling to me because my mum and my grandmother have never been called up. I'm like the first person in the family to be called up for jury service. And what an experience it was. But first, the holiday. Amazing 4-day experience. Sun, sea, loads of takeout. It was great. My diet went out the window. Then, coming back home to do 2 weeks of jury service, well, technically speaking, it was only 1 week, because in the UK, there's a lot of strikes going on, and that includes barrister strikes. So some people didn't even get put on a case, and they just got sent home. But I don't know whether you would call it lucky, was put on a case my very first day, and it was a 7-day case, which means I was there for the entire first week and then 2 days of the second week. So in terms of the jury service experience, I'm not allowed to talk what went on in the deliberation room itself, but I will say about my experience in the courtroom, just sitting in front of a court. 1, it was so cold. The air conditioning is either really nice on a hot day or it's like a freezer. There is no in between. And it was like being inside of a true crime documentary. That's the only way I can describe it because it was just insane. The prosecution, when they were telling the events and everything going on, it just got more and more crazy with every detail that came out. It was also a fascinating case, mainly because while I was listening to the defendant on the stand plead their case, I was looking at the evidence folder in front of me and just picking out bits of their statements that just did not add up. To be fair, I only found out afterwards how long we spent in the deliberation room, and according to a news article that I read after the fact, it was less than 2 hours of deliberating to come to a verdict. And the verdict was guilty. It's an experience where I don't really know if I want to do it again. Like, it was great and all, but like, it was very, very emotionally taxing, especially for that particular case. It was an intense one, especially in cross-examination. But if I am called up again in the future, yes, I will continue to do my duty. So following jury service, I was let go from my job, mainly because there was delays in the app's launch, as well as the end of my contract. It wasn't for a lack of trying to keep me, because once my contract ran out, I actually worked freelance for the company for about a month after that, but the company was experiencing delays with launch of the app that was in development, and my boss said he would happily have me back if I'm still available when the time comes. But the job was a huge experience and confidence boost for me. It was definitely a huge boost to my art as well. It just improved so much, and my knowledge of Clip Studio Paint also went up as well. I also have the EX version of Clip Studio Paint because I had to have that for work, and now I have it forever. But getting back to the artwork, I started sketching out some candles and some lanterns, kind of inspired a little bit by Tangled, but I also really like autumn and winter, so I can just light up my favourite candles in the evening and just have it be a very calming presence in the background. If you've been following my artwork for a while, you'll know that I really love to play with colour and lighting, so that definitely went into my thought process behind the lanterns and the candles. But to finish off this video, I'm just showing the close-up of the final pages, just showing you all the little details that have gone into this. And I did go in afterwards with a watercolour brush pen just to create the lighting effects of the lanterns. I thought it would add a really nice pop of colour and be really effective. But I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye guys!